So our mission was clear. How can we help people understand what they have, using open finance capability to help answer that, so that we can then move on to two really important questions. Is it enough? And then what can people do to improve it?
Welcome to the Digital Customer Communications podcast, where we discover how regulated companies engage, retain, and delight customers at scale. Today, we're taking you inside one of the most ambitious digital transformation journeys in UK financial services as we speak to the team at Scottish Widows about how they're reimagining the customer experience for millions of people. Our guest is Leslee Ross, lead product owner at Scottish Widows. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Sam.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Leslie's been at the forefront of the organisation's transformation strategy, including the recent refresh of your mobile app, a key milestone in a multi-year programme aimed at delivering better experiences for customers. So to kick us off, can you give us a bit of a rundown of your role and how it fits within the digital transformation programme at Scottish Widows?
Yeah, sure. So as part of Lloyds Banking Group, we're on a mission to help Britain prosper. And for teams at Scottish Widows, our focus is on how we help people prosper in the future. 1 in 2 mortgages don't have any life cover. Only 1 in 10 UK adults have critical illness cover. In fact, we're more likely to insure our pets and our mobile phones than ourselves. Many UK adults still opt to save in cash rather than investing for potentially better returns. So for the last 18 months, I have led the strategy and delivery for our new customer digital proposition to help tackle these problems. And just recently, actually, I've accepted a new challenge and I'll be becoming the director for our what we call overall platform as a whole, where I'll be leading our 450 strong team alongside I'm pointing to my technology platform lead to help transform and scale digital experiences for our customers, but importantly, our colleagues, as well as our advisors that we interact with.
That sounds immensely exciting. So lots of things going on at Scottish Widows. In terms of sort of the nuts and bolts of the transformation programme, let's start with maybe the mobile app, because that was obviously a big milestone. What was the driver behind that new experience?
Really back to those UK societal problems that I mentioned. So our new customer proposition is all about elevating a tomorrow money conversation that many UK adults really struggle to see beyond a couple of years. So this is all about how can we help the UK improve their financial future. We already had a great workplace pension-based experience in our app, but we know that that's only one part of people's financial picture. So our mission was clear, was how can we help people understand what they have, using open finance capability to help answer that, so that we can then move on to two really important questions. Is it enough? And then what can people do to improve it? So it's really about how do we help people grow their wealth, plan for the future and protect their money from the unexpected. And everything that we do, so our new chief exec, Chira, who joined in 2023, this was really part of his strategy refresh, and he was very active and remains very actively involved in what we're doing.
I think I read that you mentioned open finance there.
Yes.
The experience aims to bring in not just insurance policies from Scottish Widows, but from other providers as well. Can you give us a bit of a high level of how that works?
Yeah, so we partnered with MoneyHub, a fintech, to help us with that open finance product aggregation. And it's really about, in order to help people think about their future, understanding their context today is really important. So that open finance is not only building a picture of your wealth, but also starting to help understand your money today so we can help customers make choices for their tomorrow.
And that's part of a longer transformation strategy. So are we step 1, step 5? Where are we in that journey?
So last year, we really spent a lot of time getting to kind of step one. Now we're moving on to how do we scale the experience to make sure all of our customers can get access to the proposition, but also then start looking at engagement and leveraging all of the data that we have to help customers make those choices. So this is really year one of a 3-year transformation at Scottish Widows.
Setting those goals, then you've got these kind of overarching goals for the project, as well as, I imagine, specific goals for example, the mobile app refresh. What kind of goals were you looking at from the mobile app, and what have you seen since in terms of feedback or in terms of quantitative data?
So phase one of our refresh is really focused on establishing the base proposition and transforming our app to go beyond pensions. We're now live with the base proposition and optimising based on feedback. We're moving to that next wave of our strategy where, like I say, we have two key priorities. How do we scale and how do we drive deeper levels of engagement that's more personalised? In terms of that scaling, we are, by the end of sort of half one, we're aiming to have the majority of our existing customers with access to the app, and then throughout the second half of the year really focusing on that broader UK population with a kind of soft launch later this year. And we're very excited about that, and we'll have more to share in that in the future. And looping back to our mission, really, back to those big UK societal challenges I mentioned, that ongoing engagement will be key. These are relatively low engagement products, and people do not jump out of bed every morning to think about pensions and investments. So what we're really thinking about is what we can introduce to engage, to enable that ongoing engagement, give reasons for customers to come back, but also get the balance right between not coming back every day, because these are, long-term investments, and we want to make sure that customers are coming in when they need to, rather than, everyday worry.
Yeah, you don't want to engage people so much that they have to log into the app, because that's a problem. Yeah,
indeed.
So in terms of those decisions that you made around personalization and engagement, like you say, it's very hard to drive engagement with these products, but if you do it right, we've seen from challenger banks, for example, that they've managed to bring things on leaps and bounds. What kind of early decisions did you make to sort of lay the right platform for that scale that you're talking about?
Yeah, so Chira, when he joined as our new chief exec in 2023, and he really had that clear vision for Scottish Widows and how we can help play a part in helping Britain prosper. And so that gave us a really solid start on the UK societal challenges and a kind of strategy to tackle them. And he even spent time with the design team mocking up concepts for the app on a whiteboard, which was fantastic. So when it came then to turning concepts into customer and value delivery, I've learned over the years that when tackling something at this scale, it is really important to flesh out some of the big decisions early on before you're tempted to scale up teams when you're not really sure what you're doing and burning money that you're not ready to spend. So what we focused on keeping us as a small team, tackling some of the big questions earlier on, making sure that we had access to our senior stakeholder group. So again, leveraging kind of weekly sort of clearinghouse that was really enabled us to get fast decisions and not getting caught up in lots of paper producing and governance was really helpful. And a lot of our decisions early on were around technology choices. Did we understand what our direction was I would say the main thing, as well as keeping up and in line with Lloyds Banking Group is a very big organisation, so with lots of transformation underway, how do we stay aligned with some of the other deliveries that are happening so that we're not having to do a lot of rework was kind of key. The process that we've been on with workplace pensions customers over the last 4 or 5 years, digitising their experience, that gave us a massive stepping stone with what we were doing here, because we've done lots of research and understanding around what those cohorts of customers have really struggled with.
What you talked about there is a lot of project management, people and cultural stuff, really, rather than innovation and tech. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the nature of financial services and, like you say, breaking through barriers like regulation, or adhering to regulation and breaking through barriers that could slow you down in terms of compliance, which have traditionally been seen as blockers. How have you approached regulation within that kind of context in terms of the tech side?
We are really lucky to have access to lots of subject matter experts to help us navigate any kind of regulatory data considerations. So we have moved to a model within Lloyds Banking Group, moving away from project actually to product management. So what we have are enduring teams that are made up of what we affectionately call as two in the box model, with product and technology in real partnership. So that we have, enduring teams that we have set up that is really focused on the customer, really focused on how do we create an amazing product. And we're really disciplined with a set of principles on the experience. So whilst I talked about the kind of project challenges, we also set ourselves an ambition to be innovative in the experience, to introduce gamification and a very stripped back user interface. So with the SMEs that we have access to, we had an embedded risk partner within the team to really help again with that quick decision making, but also, if they didn't know the answer, they knew who to speak to. And again, then just having that regular cadence with key exec members and kind of stakeholders really helped. And I think, we are all consumers, and our expectations have, gone through the roof around what, good experiences are. So that's really helped change the mindset as well around, it's not just about complying. We have to find a way to create simple and delightful experiences, but still protect customers from harm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of regulation that sort of points towards enabling. There's a lot of regulation generally, but there's a lot of regulation that points us towards sort of enabling better experiences for customers, making things more understandable, more accessible for vulnerable people. It's not always regulation that is the blocker. Were there any other sort of big challenges?
Yeah, I mean, one of our biggest challenges was, this was a very, very important and ambitious milestones that we set ourselves in terms of looking to transform the workplace experience within the app to a more holistic proposition. And, we did that under 6 months. So one of the challenges we faced was, how do you scale from one team to what we call a lab team within Lloyds that is all around creating that capacity to deliver the proposition? So that was definitely difficult to scale the team whilst starting to create value delivery. And what really helped us being able to go at pace was being able to create the right team with the right capabilities from the outset. And I know that sounds really obvious and simple, but it actually takes a lot of work. And the whole team, across Scottish Widows and the team that I work very closely with, were so energised and motivated by the mission. Everyone went above and beyond and continues to do. But now we're focused on how can we establish a little bit more of a sustainable pace, because lots of people said, it had startup vibes within a very big organisation. Yeah, I definitely needed my Christmas holiday by the end of it.
Sounds exciting though, and the pressure cooker of a timeline at pace is sometimes something that bonds and glues a team together when you've got the right people, like you say. The long-term transformation then, what's next?
So really is about, like I say, scaling and engaging. So by the end of this year, we are looking to have enabled the app for all of our existing customers, of which we have about 10 million. Then it's about how can we make sure that we can really help with that mission at the UK level. So how can we offer an experience to the mass market where there are so many gaps for saving and thinking about the future. We've just launched some new features, and we're getting the feedback from our customers. And you asked earlier on around, some of our early results. What we've seen since we've launched is we've kind of more than doubled our app registration rates, which is fantastic. But importantly, we've also seen 2-3 times increases on customers taking important actions, whether that is, reviewing their retirement age, telling us who will get their pension when they die, opening up a new investment product to save more for their future, or combining their pension pots so that they're kind of not losing track. So, but we're just getting started. So now, it's about how can we really then move from the building the wealth phase, where we've been really focused, as well as helping customers with their protection and insurance needs, to then think about moving into retirement planning. So helping customers make their choices at that important stage of life.
And I imagine a lot of the making those journeys easier, more frictionless is a big part of it, as well as the kind of communication that goes around it as well. I mean, you've got in-product contextual communication and working with, the wider team, like I'm thinking comms and marketing, to sort of build an awareness of, right, things are changing here. This is what we're doing for you. How much were you balancing both, and what did you find worked?
So I think it is a tricky balance. And I think one of the things that, so everything that we deliver goes through several rounds of, user research and testing. But I think, again, over the years, I've learned that you only really understand how it's going to land once it's in the customer's hands at scale. So, we are very focused on making sure we have fast feedback loops on how new features are landing, how customers are getting on with it. And I think even though we always think we've got it as simple as possible, there's more to be done. So what we have predominantly focused on is, in terms of communications, has been engaging that workplace population to take them on the journey. So that covers, employers, advisors, as well as then the workplace members themselves. Probably in the last few months, we've started to scale up social activity as we open up the experience to more of our existing customers. And I would say that, again, we're learning on what works and what doesn't. And because, customers can have multiple products, so you've got to have that product communication, what's happening, not just for, what we're trying to do, but right across of our sort of air traffic control of communication. So again, we work very closely with our brands and marketing teams, and, having shared objectives from the kind of overall organisation that is aligned at all levels really helps with that.
Product teams sometimes can feel like once their messaging goes beyond the product, the context of the product, it gets lost in translation when it goes through the angle grinder of marketing, so to speak. How have you found, obviously it's not just marketing when we're talking about regulated sectors, it's compliance as well, that's got to go through. How have you found the best ways are to sort of drive alignment among those teams?
So a lot of, when I think about where we spend the most of our time, is in that space, is making sure we get alignment, that we are engaging with the relevant product SMEs or, brands and marketing risk teams to make sure that whatever that we're doing is accurate and covers, any types of risks. And that's a real collaborative effort, really, that we've got a, established cadence within the lab team with those stakeholders represented. And it's very much like working sessions around how we get to the point of being ready for engineers to start work on the features. So it's really helped us from, this being a key strategic priority from, the CEO down. And that helps keep that alignment on, what are we trying to do. We've also, as part of our scaled agile approach within Lloyds, we've got, objectives and key results. So again, those help with the alignment on what are we trying to do, why are we trying to do it, and then we use a kind of quarterly planning process to interlock on what we need from each other to help deliver the outcomes, and then we have a process to raise anything that we all get stuck with into, again, a kind of clearinghouse process. But part of the model that we've adopted is really trying to limit the amount of dependencies and make sure that the teams have what they need to make decisions. So, we've made a lot of change over the last few years to really help with that.
Without obviously forcing siloing, which can also kind of be a product of that, come too far apart and you end up working on your own OKRs and KPIs. I think it's more difficult. You mentioned user testing earlier. It's more difficult to align in terms of metrics on customer experience than it is on general OKRs, from your app, for example, with other teams, because you do product user testing, you do comms user testing. How much are you involved in the other side when it comes to communications testing and testing campaigns versus, just the product?
We're involved in it all. And I think what again we are quite fortunate to have is brands, marketing and experience. They have that, they work with us looking at the kind of end to end. So you've got the experience design team that really help make sure overall we have a consistent experience, regardless of which product or team you are working in. We have a set of standard principles, and then we have the right governance around that to make sure that before we introduce anything into the app, it is, meeting those principles. Then that kind of works upstream, then downstream around any of that sort of testing on campaigns, and we come together then as a team regularly to review what is working, what's not. And it's lovely to see that, when you bring lots of different people together from, different parts of the organisation and different experience, we get better results because everybody has that's diversity of ideas, and feedback and thought is super helpful.
Yeah, you get more of a buzz around the organisation, and ideas are a bit more fluid. Sometimes people have more challenging days than they're used to, and that kind of happens with change because they're rubbing up against people that they don't usually work with. But ultimately, that's kind of how you learn through change as well, isn't it? The digital experience then, what are you building, what are you working on at the moment that you can tell us about?
So we are working on, last year a lot of our focus was on creating that holistic view for customers for their wealth. We're now working on the similar experience for our protection and insurance products. So we have first focused on making sure that existing customers can see what protection and insurance cover they have with us, start helping understand what gaps that they've got. Now we're moving on to, giving that holistic view for people with where they have cover elsewhere. And that's really about staying purpose focused on, we're here to help individuals as customers. It's not about us as an organisation. It is really about how are we helping people with those big gaps, and that has tested so well. So I'm really excited to see, the impact once that feature goes live. In my broader role going forward, we are doing work right now on our colleague experience, and that's super exciting because we're leveraging AI technology there to help improve the service experience that we can offer customers, but importantly, what our colleagues, because we've got lots of systems that colleagues have to operate with to serve our customers. So we're on a journey on simplification of that, which is really exciting.
And getting rid of legacy technology, things like that?
Yes, and if you think about certainly Scottish Widows, some of these products are, 30 years old. So more and more it's how can we help create that to be a simple experience for colleagues rather than having to deal with lots of legacy.
Yeah, I mean, we know that these days from research, colleague experience, customer experience, they're kind of one thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other. I had one final question for you, but I think I'm going to give you two. Let's talk about your experience. For me, it's when you deploy a product or you deploy something new to a large group of people, that's almost probably one of the most exciting parts of my job. Is that what's most exciting for you, or what do you find is the most exciting part of a product roadmap like that?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoy getting, new features into customers' hands. And I think I get a lot of energy from the people I work with, our customers. And for me, like, one of the things I've loved as part of this experience is that we are being bold and experimental, and we're not afraid to kind of, get things wrong and make changes and make improvements, which I've loved. And giving the freedom to our experienced design colleagues has also, meant that they've came up with some things that we would never have potentially delivered a few years ago, which I've really enjoyed that as well.
Sounds like a really exciting time to be at Scottish Widows. How long have you been with the brand?
So I started here in my third year of university. So I actually started in customer services,
So
and I
last
always
year?
loved that. No, I wish. It feels like last year, but no, it'll be 25 years this year. I have had lots of different roles, and I loved when I was in customer services. So I am like so proud and delighted that I'm now leading, the transformation of our customer and colleague and advisor digital experience. Yeah, really proud.
That kind of leads me on to my last question then. What kind of advice can you give for people who would like to maybe move across or go into digital transformation roles within the financial services?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. Like, one of the biggest learnings I got from this last 18 months is it is so important to build the team that you need and look after them. I think we wouldn't have been able to have achieved what we did without having that, the right team with the right skills in place. So I would definitely encourage people to really, when they're starting on that, think about that and take your time to do it. Again, you might feel that pressure to hire quickly, but those are decisions that you have to be good with. So yeah, that would be my take.
And make the most of your Christmas break, I think, was your other bit of advice, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Because you might be busy for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's why it's looking after people is so important. Life happens to us all. I think it's, for me, I'm very transparent and human in my leadership approach. And that is, helps build that relationship with the team and that trust, which is hugely important to me.
Well, I think we will let you go now. Thank you so much for your time, Leslee Ross. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Sam.